The World Cup economy is absolutely broken right now.
The Men's World Cup has returned to the United States this summer with more teams, more matches, and a lot more money.
Take a look at this. $3.64 billion during the Germany 2006 World Cup cycle. South Africa 2010, $4.19 billion. Brazil 2014, $5.72 billion. Russia 2018, $6.4 billion. And then Qatar 2022, the biggest World Cup cycle in history, $7.57 billion in total revenue across 4 years. That growth alone is staggering. But here is the stat that really breaks your brain. Between 79 and 87% of all that money came from just one tournament. Not club football, not qualifiers, not youth competitions. One single event every 4 years. FIFA basically spends 4 years sleeping and wakes up to count billions of dollars. The 2026 World Cup with 48 teams, 104 matches, and 3 host nations is about to be the biggest one ever built. Today, we are breaking down exactly who gets paid and how much. FIFA, the business that only works every 4 years. Let's start with the obvious one, FIFA. Most people think of it as a governing body, which technically it is. $5 billion across the Qatar World Cup cycle alone, and they operate on a schedule that would terrify any conventional investor. Imagine pitching to a boardroom. Our entire model depends on 83% of all revenue coming from one product we release every 4 years. That is literally FIFA's financial reality. If the World Cup disappeared tomorrow, FIFA would financially cease to exist almost overnight. No pressure at all. FIFA makes money across 4 main areas: broadcasting rights, sponsorships, ticket sales, and licensing. The single biggest one, by an embarrassingly wide margin, is broadcasting. $64 billion from broadcast rights alone. That is 61% of their entire 4-year revenue just from selling the rights to air matches. Broadcasting on its own generated more money than FIFA's total revenue during the entire Germany 2006 cycle. The value of live sport has absolutely fucking exploded over the last 20 years, and the World Cup sits right at the top of that explosion. The reason broadcasters pay these numbers is surprisingly simple. The World Cup is one of the last things on television that people still insist on watching live. 5 billion viewers globally. That is close to 1 in 5 people on the entire planet watching the same match at the same time. Broadcasters are not being generous. They are paying for the most reliable mass audience delivery system ever invented. Fox Sports paid $425 million for the English language rights to both the 2018 and 2022 World Cups combined. In the UK, industry estimates value the BBC and ITV rights package at close to $100 million per tournament. England versus France at Qatar 2022 peaked at 23 million viewers on ITV alone. That is more people than the entire population of Australia watching a single football match on a single television channel, which either says a lot about football or a lot about Australia. $1 billion, up from $425 million for 2 full tournaments. Because this tournament is now in America, the biggest advertising market on the planet, with 104 matches instead of 64. 5% increase in content inventory. More matches, more ad breaks, more sponsor exposure, more everything. For broadcasters, this is not a sporting event anymore. It is a revenue vehicle with football painted on the outside. As sponsors, paying a fortune to sit at the table. The second biggest revenue stream for FIFA is sponsorships, and FIFA has turned this into a full-tiered corporate hierarchy. For Qatar 2022, 7 top-tier partners held the premium seats: Adidas, Coca-Cola, Wanda, Hyundai and Kia, Qatar Airways, Visa, and Qatar Energy. For 2026, the group expanded to 8. Lenovo joins the party, and Aramco, the Saudi state oil company, now holds a top-tier partnership. If you have been paying any attention to how Gulf states have been using sport as a geopolitical strategy over the last decade, that is about as surprising as finding a hot dog at an NFL tailgate. Industry estimates suggest a top-tier FIFA World Cup sponsorship runs between $75 and $100 million per cycle. Adidas reportedly pays up to $95 million per 4-year deal. Hyundai's agreement has been valued at around $182 million. These contracts technically cover the full 4-year ecosystem, including the Women's World Cup, the Club World Cup, youth tournaments, and digital rights. But every brand sitting at that table is really paying for 6 weeks, every 4 years, when the entire world is watching. The rest is background noise. The numbers confirm the shift in attitude. FIFA's dedicated World Cup sponsor tier grew from $363 million during Russia 2018 to $545 million during Qatar 2022. A 50% jump. Brands increasingly care less about FIFA, the organization across the full cycle, and more about the tournament itself. Both sides know this. They keep signing the contracts anyway. Tickets. This shit has genuinely gone too far now. Let's talk about the most visible way the World Cup extracts money from regular people. Tickets. During the Qatar 2022 cycle, FIFA generated $712 million from ticket sales and hospitality alone. For 2026, that number is going to be significantly larger. The tournament is bigger. Qatar. It is hosted in the most commercially aggressive sports market on earth, and hospitality packages have already been listed at over $70,000 per package. For football, $70,000. That is several years of tuition at some universities, 10 of the most expensive laptops money can buy, or approximately 4,000 Big Macs. We all know which option is the smarter investment. FIFA has also implemented dynamic pricing across the tournament, which means ticket costs can keep climbing as demand increases. Previously, when a fan got hold of an underpriced ticket and resold it for a profit, that money stayed within the fan ecosystem. Now, FIFA captures that surplus directly. They turned themselves into the marketplace and kept the arbitrage. Progress, apparently. Host nations, the biggest gamble in all of sport. Here is where it gets genuinely complicated. While FIFA collects billions, the nations that actually host the tournament are taking enormous financial risks with no guaranteed return whatsoever. Germany 2006 cost around $4 billion. South Africa was comparable, Brazil jumped sharply higher, Russia went bigger still. And then Qatar, which reportedly spent around $220 billion. $220 billion. That is roughly 20 times what Russia spent. For that number, Qatar built new stadiums, new roads, new airports, a metro system that had not previously existed, and entire new city districts developed from nothing.
The state of Qatar has spent $220 billion on building world-class infrastructure, including new roads, public transport, hotels, and sporting facilities.
You almost have to respect the commitment, even as your brain refuses to fully process the figure. Economists have been arguing for years about whether hosting the World Cup delivers genuine financial return. Supporters argue it accelerates development the country needed regardless. Critics argue projects are oversized, politically driven, and economically wasteful. Both camps are probably right, depending on which specific country you examine. But increasingly, hosting is not really about recouping costs through ticket revenues and hotel bookings. It is about image, prestige, global attention that no conventional advertising campaign could purchase. Qatar wanted to reshape international perception of itself. The 2034 hosts will want something remarkably similar. The 2026 edition is a completely different story though. The United States, Canada, and Mexico are not building from the ground up. All 16 host stadiums already exist. Most are NFL venues already accommodating massive crowds every single week during the regular season, and privately financed long before anyone mentioned a World Cup. The infrastructure cost for this tournament will be dramatically lower than any recent edition, which means 2026 might actually represent the most financially sensible World Cup hosting decision in modern history. A sensible FIFA-adjacent financial outcome. Genuinely did not think those two concepts would ever share a sentence. Players, the product nobody properly compensates. None of this works without the players. $5 billion. Broadcasters earn billions more. Sponsors spend hundreds of millions. And all of it depends entirely on 736 footballers showing up and performing at the highest level. They are the product. So do they actually get properly paid for any of this? There are two separate financial systems operating around players at the World Cup. The first is the FIFA Club Benefits Programme. FIFA does not employ the players, their clubs do. Every 4 years, FIFA effectively borrows the best footballers on earth from clubs worldwide to stage the tournament. In exchange, FIFA compensates those clubs for releasing their players. In 2010, FIFA paid clubs a total of $40 million. By 2014, that had risen to $70 million. Russia jumped to $209 million. Qatar matched it. And for 2026, FIFA has committed to distributing $355 million. That is a 788% increase since 2010. $5 billion. The math is a bit stupid when you actually lay it side by side. FIFA calculates the payments on a per player per day basis. During Qatar 2022, that rate worked out at approximately $10.50 per player per day remaining in the tournament. And crucially, FIFA splits those payments across every club the player was registered with during the previous 2 years. So a smaller club that developed a player, believed in him, and sold him years earlier can still receive an unexpected windfall from a World Cup they had nothing to do with. That is actually genuinely beautiful sitting inside an otherwise entirely transactional machine. Prize money. Who gets it and where it goes. The second financial layer is direct tournament prize money. And here's where things get interesting, because the money does not go to the players at all. It goes to the national federations. What happens after that is entirely their own decision. For Qatar 2022, the total prize pool was $440 million. Just for qualifying, each federation received at least $9 million. Round of 16 exits earned $13 million. Quarter finalists received $17 million. The champions Argentina took home $42 million. FIFA transferred that to the Argentine Football Association. What portion of that $42 million reached the actual players depended entirely on internal agreements that the public rarely gets to see. Some federations negotiate clear player bonuses. Others pay modest appearance fees. Some quietly reinvest heavily into infrastructure and hope nobody asks detailed follow-up questions. The variation between countries is enormous. $5 million from the start. With 48 teams instead of 32, more countries than ever are entering this prize pool. For the biggest football small economies, it is a welcome boost. 5 million can fundamentally transform what is possible. New training facilities, coaching programs, youth development pipelines. The number means entirely different things depending on which federation is receiving it. The career lottery that changes everything beyond the prize money systems. There is a more direct and often more valuable way players get rich from the World Cup. Visibility, pure undeniable global visibility. A strong World Cup campaign can change a player's market value almost overnight. James Rodriguez was at Monaco before 2014. 6 goals, including one of the greatest tournament volleys ever struck by a human foot, and Real Madrid paid 80 million euros for him within weeks. Shirts sold out, endorsements multiplied, global recognition built from a handful of matches. Enzo Fernandez was purchased by Benfica for 14 million euros before Qatar 2022. Chelsea paid over 100 million pounds for him shortly after the tournament ended. Sofiane Amrabat went from relative anonymity to Premier League football entirely on the back of Morocco's historic semi-final run. Mbappe was exciting before Russia 2018, but that tournament transformed him into a planetary superstar at 19. Bigger contracts, bigger sponsorships, a commercial profile that extended far beyond football into mainstream global culture. The same thing will happen in 2026. Someone currently playing in a league most casual fans have never heard of is about to become famous everywhere. 6 weeks. That is genuinely all it takes. The World Cup is not just a tournament. For certain players, it is the highest paying career lottery on earth, and entry is completely free. Prediction markets and the new Wild West. Let's talk about something genuinely different about this particular World Cup. Prediction markets. Traditional gambling has always circled major tournaments, but 2026 is shaping up as the first World Cup where prediction markets enter the mainstream in a serious and unmistakable way. In America particularly, companies like Kalshi and Polymarket are growing at a completely fucking ridiculous pace. Both platforms allow users to essentially trade on outcomes of real-world events, and the scope of what you can create a market around has expanded to the point of feeling almost surreal. Not just who wins the tournament, whether a specific match gets relocated before a certain date, whether a head coach survives to the quarterfinals, whether a particular referee appears more than 3 times. The creativity in market generation is genuinely impressive, and only slightly alarming depending on how long you stare at it. Kalshi went from a $2 billion valuation to $22 billion across 2025 alone. Polymarket is reportedly raising at a $15 billion valuation right now. These are technology company numbers, not gambling company numbers. They repackage trading on sports outcomes as a financial product, and the market responded immediately. Honestly, smarter brand positioning than most of the companies paying FIFA 100 million a cycle for logo placement. FIFA has now brought on an official prediction market partner called ADI Predict Street, a company almost nobody had heard of before, built on blockchain infrastructure, with a website that barely functions as of this recording, somehow holding a top-tier FIFA sponsorship. Whether the platform properly launches before the first match is anyone's guess, but the fact that FIFA is officially embracing this category tells you everything about the direction of travel. Everyone else quietly printing money. Beyond the headline players, there is an enormous supporting ecosystem of businesses generating serious revenue from the World Cup without much fanfare. Airlines fill every seat and raise every price. 56 million visitors in 2022, and nearly half arrived specifically during the World Cup window. For 2026, with fans moving between cities across the US, Canada, and Mexico over 6 weeks, it is going to be a genuinely exceptional summer for aviation, except probably for the airlines that are already struggling. You know who you are. Kit manufacturers are already counting profits they have not collected yet. Adidas reported football sales growing 30% in 2022. Before 2026 had officially begun, Adidas announced approximately 500 million euros in World Cup product bookings across the first 2 quarters of the year, $500 million in shirts and boots, before a single whistle has blown. The jersey economy is real, it is large, and it keeps growing. Payment companies move quietly but constantly. During the opening weekend of Brazil 2014, international visitors spent over $27 million on Visa cards alone. That was a 73% increase over the same period the previous year. By the end of the Qatar group stage, Visa reported consumer spending at official venues had already reached 89% of the entire 2018 World Cup total, with knockout rounds still to come. Every transaction at every stadium across 6 weeks. Visa takes a slice of all of it. Visa also happens to be a top-tier FIFA sponsor. Funny how that alignment works. And surrounding everything is the content economy. Hundreds of millions of short-form videos, podcasts, analysis breakdowns, reaction clips, written threads. Every platform on earth pivots toward the World Cup for 6 weeks, because attention is currency, and nothing commands attention like this tournament. The content machine feeds the money machine, feeds the content machine in a cycle that does not stop until the trophy is lifted. The World Cup is the single greatest financial event in sport, bar none. FIFA collects the broadcast billions. Sponsors pay 9 figures for association. Host nations gamble on on prestige and infrastructure, players use 6 weeks to completely reshape their careers and net worth. Prediction market companies and betting platforms gorge on every single minute of coverage. Airlines, kit manufacturers, payment processors, content creators, hospitality operators, all of them feeding from the same feast every 4 years. The numbers keep growing, the tournament keeps expanding, and when that opening whistle sounds in 2026, more money will move across those 104 matches than most nations generate in an entire calendar year. Football is the sport, but the World Cup is something else entirely. If you like watching this, there is a lot more where that came from.